This is a complete step-by-step tutorial on how to create and deploy a responsive multi-page website using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now this website is going to be completely responsive, and that means we are going to make sure it looks good on tablets, desktop, and mobile devices. And now let me walk you through the finished project. Now, after creating our website, we are going to deploy it to hosting. Okay, and that means we are going to upload our website files, that is our source code, and then our images. We are going to upload them to a server and make our website accessible to anyone around the world. Now, for the finished project, we have our navbar, which has a transparent background by default, but on scroll we are going to have this orange background. Okay, when we scroll, we are going to have that orange background to separate the navbar from the remaining item. And notice how the navbar sits on top of every item on the page. Alright, so on the navbar we have our logo on the far left, we have our nav items in the middle, we have home, products, why choose us, frequently asked questions, and then our contacts. Now these two nav items are going to link to different sections on this same home page. So this is going to take us to the products section of the page. This is also going to take us to the why choose us section of the page. But these two sections, these two nav items are going to be different pages. Okay, so we are going to create separate pages for these two. So this is going to be the frequently asked questions page. We are going to create a page for that, and this is going to be the contacts page, and this contacts form actually works. Okay, and that means your visitors can enter their details here or any message they want to send, and then send you that message. Okay, and you are going to receive that message in your email. I'm going to show you how to do that as well in this tutorial. But now let's get back to the home page. We are going to get back to the contacts form, but let's go back to the home page. And now we have this main section. Okay, we have our title, we have this as well, we have a subtitle, and then we have some call to action buttons. Okay, now this call to action button is going to bring us down to the products section, but this is going to play the video, okay, of how this product works. All right, so let's play that video. We can actually view this in full screen if you want. And we can click outside the video to close the modal. All right, we have this image right here, and we have the card on the far right as well. And we are going to use CSS grid to align the items as you see it on the page. Now let's go to the products section. This is the products section. We have our title, we have some paragraph here, and then we have each product. Okay, so each product is going to have product image and then the product details right here, and there's going to be a link for more info or for more details about the product. So maybe you write a blog and then link this anchor tag to that blog for your visitors to read more about that particular product. There's going to be another product as well, and now we have the why choose us section, which is this section right here. So we have this left side, why choose us, and then we have the title. Now we have our trusted clients here. Then down here we have our testimonials. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to create this section as well with the slide or the swipe effect. I'm going to show you how to do that. Then here we have our frequently asked questions. Okay, so any questions your visitors may want to ask, you can actually answer them right here as well. And now these are just a few of the frequently asked questions. So if someone wants to see more, they can click this and it's going to take them to the frequently asked questions page. That is a separate page we are going to create, and we have more frequently asked questions. Now these are just dummy texts, but obviously you would enter real questions and then real answers. All right, and if they have any questions that is not here, they can actually go to the contacts page and then enter that question. Okay, enter that right here, and then you can reply them in your email. Now let's go back and go down to here, and then we have this section as well, which is going to be the call to action section. This will also take us to the contact page. And then lastly, we have our footer. Okay, we have our footer section right here. Okay, so this will take your visitors to your social media. All right, so that is for the home page. Now let's go to the frequently asked questions page. So that is all for the frequently asked questions page. We just have more frequently asked questions, and then we have our footer section as well. Okay, let's go to the contacts page. This is all for the contacts page. We have this right here, and then we have our contacts form. Now we can enter our name, let's say Francis Roysty. We can enter our email and then our phone number. So that's my message. Okay, I'm going to send the message. We are going to use Google Recaptcha. I'm going to teach you how to do all this in this tutorial. So stairs, let's say we have stairs. Let me go back and now let me check my email. Okay, let's go to my email. Let me refresh, and now I have my form submitted. Okay, and this is the message. This is the exact message from the form. We have the name. This is the name we entered. We have the email. We have the phone number we entered, and then we have the message. Now this website is going to be very customizable. Okay, and that means we can, for instance, we can just go to the CSS here, change this primary color to, let's say, blue. We can change it to this color. Let me refresh. I'm going to change this back to the original color and save. Come back and refresh. All right, so now we have our original website. Now let's see the responsiveness. Okay, let's see how this website is going to look on mobile phones and tablets. Now this is how our website is going to look on mobile. Okay, this is how our website is going to look on mobile. So we have the products section. This is our frequently asked questions page. This is our contact page right here. Now let's go back to the home page. Then let's see what the home page looks like. We can click this and it will take us to the products section. We can play our video. We can view our video in full screen. We can click outside the video. Okay, we can click on the card to hide the video or to close the modal. This is our products section of the page. This is our testimonial section. We still have our swipe effect or our slide. We have 3 testimonials. This is our frequently asked questions section of the page. Everything is working great. We can click this and it will take us to the frequently asked questions page. This is a page, the frequently asked questions page. Let me go back. And we have our footer right here. Okay, Now everything is looking great on mobile. Now let's see how our website is going to look on iPad Pro. All right, so this is how our website is going to look on iPad and iPad Pro. We have our testimonial section, slide effects working great. We have our frequently asked questions as well. Let's go to our frequently asked questions page, and these are our frequently asked questions. We have our footer section aligned perfectly. Let's go back to the home page. Let's play our video. You can still view in full screen if you want. Let's exit full screen. We can click on the modal, okay, or anywhere outside the video to close it. All right, now let's go to our contacts page. This is how our contacts page is going to look. All right, we have our sidebar, and we are back to our home page. All right, so this is what we are going to create in this tutorial, and we have a lot to do, so let's get started. Now I want to give a huge shout out to Al Shakir, sorry if I pronounce the name wrong, for making me or for giving me permission to use one of his designs for this project. He has a lot of designs on his website, and I'm going to leave a link to this website, okay, to his website, so that you can check him out and get some ideas for your projects. Now there are some projects that you need to pay for, and then there are some that you just need to follow him and then get access to the files. Okay, so we are using this file right here. We are using this design for this project, so a big shout out to him for letting me use this design for this project. So to have a live website, we first need the website, that is the code for the website, and this is going to be free. And we need a domain. Okay, so a domain is just the website's name. Mine is going to be egatortutorials.com. Facebook is facebook.com. Google is google.com. So that is the name of the website. We call that a domain. The next thing we need is hosting. Okay, so hosting is just a server somewhere, usually a company server that serves your files to different visitors across the world. Okay, so that everyone around the world can access your website 24/7. And the hosting provider we are going to use is Hostinger. And I have a link in the description. That is my affiliate link. If you use that, I may get a commission from your purchase. Okay, so if you appreciate the tutorials, please use that, and it is going to help me a lot. Now coming down here, we have three plans. We have the single shared hosting, we have the premium shared hosting, and then we have the business shared hosting as well. I'm going to use the premium shared hosting. Okay, I think that suits my needs for now. Okay, so we can host 100 websites on this plan. They are going to give us 100 gigabyte SSD storage. That is amazing. They're also going to give us free SSL. Okay, we are going to have a free SSL, which is going to be the lock icon. Let me show you that real quick, making sure our website is secure, and we are going to get that for free. They're also going to give us a free domain name, okay, for 1 year, so we won't have to pay $10 more for our domain name, right? And they give you a lot more things. So I prefer this premium shared hosting, so that is what I'm going to choose. By the way, there's a Black Friday promo going on. Okay, so depending on when you are watching this video, the prices may change. Okay, they may change a little bit, but they are still going to be better than other hosting providers prices. Okay, so I'm going to use this premium shared hosting, and I'm going to select the 12 months. Okay, I'm going to select the 12 months, and the total here is $23.88. Okay, we are going to enter our email here. Okay, so that is my email, and you can choose any payment option that you want. I'm going to use the credit card. Okay, I'm going to pay with my credit card. So I'm going to enter my details here. All right, so I'm going to click submit secure payment. I'm going to click to submit. Now ignore this message. My first payment did not go through. Let me show you real quick. So the first payment did not go through, okay, because I wasn't having my phone around to verify the payments. Okay, that is why it says that is why we have this here. Okay, but let's proceed and claim our domain. Okay, so they are giving us a free domain. Let's proceed to claim it. So your domain name is going to be your website name. All right, so the domain name for this, I'm going to say, okay, so this is going to be my domain name. Let me check to see if it is available, and it is available. Okay, so I'm going to claim it, and we are going to create our website ourselves. So we are going to skip this step. So let's move on to creating our website. All right, so now that we are done with buying our hosting and claiming our domain, let's move on to the most important part, and that is creating our website. Right, so here in my projects folder, I have a folder named images, and here I have all the images we are going to use in this project. So these are all the images we are going to use in this project, and I'm going to leave a link for the images, the source code, and then a live demo as well. So check the description for that. Now let's get back to the main folder, the main project folder, and here I'm going to create our project files. Okay, so the first one is going to be our home page, and that is going to be index.html. The next one is going to be our frequently asked questions page.html, and the last page we are going to create is going to be our contact page.html. Okay, so these are the three pages that we are going to create, and then I'm going to create my style sheet. Okay, so this is going to be style.css, and I'm going to create a separate style sheet for the contact page. So this is going to be contact.css. And lastly, I'm going to create my JavaScript file. Okay, so we are going to write a little bit of JavaScript. So this is going to be main.js. So these are all the files that we need for our project. Now I'm going to open my project folder inside of my text editor. I'm going to use VS Code for this. And inside of VS Code, I'm actually going to use some extensions. The first one is going to be Emmet. Emmet actually comes with VS Code, so you don't have to install that if you are using VS Code. And the next extension is going to be preview on web server. Okay, or you can install live server as well if you want. Either is going to help us preview our web page inside of our default browser without having to reload every single time. Now let's open our index.html file. That is where we are going to start, and inside of this I'm going to do exclamation tab, and that is going to generate this boilerplate for me. And my title is going to be responsive multi-page website using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That is my title. And here below the title, I'm going to link my style sheet, and that is going to be style.css. Let me leave a comment here at the top. This is how we are going to do it. We are going to create everything for the desktop version of the website, and then we will move on to the media queries, that is making it responsive for tablets and then mobile phones. Okay, so let's first tackle the desktop version, and we are going to start with our navbar right here. I'm going to put the nav bar inside of a nav tag, and inside of it I'm going to wrap everything inside the div with a class of container. And our first element is going to be our logo, okay, and that is going to be inside of an anchor tag, just so we can click on it and then it will take us to our home page. Let me actually make this index.html, okay, and the source is going to be inside of images folder and then the logo. Let's get the black logo right there. Let me actually give this anchor tag a class of logo. All right, the next element inside of the container is going to be our UL, an added list, and every list item is going to have an anchor tag, obviously a link. The first one is going to be the home page, so that is going to link to the index.html, and it is going to say home. The next one is going to be, let me duplicate this a few times. The next one is going to be the products page, and that is going to link to the same page, okay, but a section with an ID of products. So when we reach this products section, we are going to give that section an ID of products, and when we click on this nav item, it should take us to that section with the ID of products. All right, so this is how you link different sections on the same web page. Now the next link is going to be why choose us, and that is going to link us to the same page but with the ID of why choose us. Okay, it is going to link us to the why choose us section of the page. And now let's see, we are going to have our frequently asked questions page, and that is going to link us to a separate page. Okay, that is going to link us to our frequently asked page right here. So that is going to be faq.html. all right, and here we are going to have this last one. I'm going to remove it. The last one is going to be our contact page, and that is going to say let's talk. It is going to link us to the contact.cs html, sorry. It is going to link us to this page right here. All right, so that is for the nav items. Now let me move on to the icons right here. Let me show you real quick. We are going to have these icons as well. Actually, let me open this with live server. Okay, so I'm going to right click and then launch on browser, and it is going to open this project inside of my default browser. Let me put this side by side so that we can see everything that goes on. All right, so we have our page live and then our project right here. All right, so let's proceed. Now, as I said, we are going to have our icons. Okay, so for the icons, we're actually going to use Iconscout. Let me actually grab the CDN from this tab, Iconscout CDN, and I'm just going to grab it right here. I'm going to go back to my HTML, and I'm going to paste that inside of the head. Okay, so I'm going to paste that and then give that, I'm going to leave a comment here. So that is the Iconscout CDN. Okay, that is where we are going to get our icons from. All right, so we are going to get our icons. Let me actually put them in a class, a div with a class of icons. Okay, and inside, so let me go to the Iconscout website and then grab the first icon, which is going to be, so we are going to get the search icon, this basket icon, and then this user icon as well. So let me go to the Iconscout website, explore unicorns or whatever it is, and then I'm going to search for search. Okay, and that is going to give me this search icon right here. I'm going to grab it, come back to my HTML. Let me actually put this side by side so that you see what's going on. This is our live project. Then I'm going to paste our icon right here. Let me save, and then we have it. Okay, so that is how you can import icons or link to any CDN, any icons CDN. All right, so the next icon is going to be, let's see, that is going to be the basket, I think. Yeah, the shopping cart. So I'm going to duplicate this and then change this I tag and its content to the one we just copied. And then the last one is going to be the user icon. Okay, so I'm going to go back and then search for user, and I'm going to grab this first one, come back and then change this to that. All right, so let's check our website, and we have all three icons right here. Now the last thing we are going to do is get these two icons. Okay, so let me go to the mobile view. So I'm going to get this icon, that is the menu icon, and then this close icon as well. Okay, but these two icons are not going to show on the desktop version of the website. Okay, they are only going to show on the mobile view. So we are going to grab it and then we are going to display none inside of CSS. So let me grab the menu. Actually, you know what, let me go back to this and then let's see. This is going to be the menu button, so I'm going to give that an ID of menu btn. Okay, and that is going to be my menu button. Let me grab that from, let's see, this is going to be my icon, and I'm going to paste that here. Let's check whether it is there. That is my menu icon right there, and I'm going to get the close icon as well. Okay, so I'm going to get, let's see which one. Let's get this, copy, and then I'm going to duplicate this and change the I. All right, so that is all for our navbar. Okay, that is all for, this is all for our navbar markup. Now let's head to the style sheet and then give this some styling. So this is what we have from the markup. Let's head to the CSS. Now I think I forgot to change this ID, so this is going to be close btn. That is going to be for the close button. Let's get back to the CSS. Now for the CSS, we are going to use CSS variables. Okay, and for CSS variables, we are going to have an easy time customizing our theme. Okay, so for instance, as I showed you earlier in the project review, we can just change one color and then our whole theme is going to change. All right, so that is why we are going to use CSS variables. Just we are going to set one variable and then we are going to use them throughout the entire project. All right, so right here I'm going to have some root variables, and root variables can be accessed anywhere in the project. Okay, so inside of this CSS file I can access them, and even inside of the contact CSS I can access them as well. All right, so here I'm going to have my first variable, and this is going to be my primary color variable, and that is going to be a hex code of F24822. Okay, that is my primary color. So to declare a variable, you just do two hyphens, the name of the variable, a colon, and then the value. All right, so that is how you declare a CSS variable. Now I'm going to have a couple of more variables, so I'm just going to copy this and then paste it right here. All right, so these are the variables that we are going to use in this project. So okay, so these are going to be the colors, and we are going to have these variables for our width as well. We are going to have a certain width for our container, and our container is going to help center our project, okay, our website content. That's why we have this padding right here, or this margin on the left and then the right. So that is going to be for these variables. Okay, one is going to be on mobile and tablets, and then the other is going to be on the desktop. So these are the variables that I'm going to use. Now let's move on to zeroing out the margin and padding and all that. So for everything on our web page, let me put this side by side so that you see what's going on. So for everything inside our website, we are going to zero out the margin. The padding is going to be zeroed out as well. Our outline is going to be 0. Our borders is going to be 0. text decoration, that is the underlines that we have for our anchor tags, are going to be none. We are not going to have them. We don't like them. Our list style, that is the bullets, are going to be none. And then let's see, box sizing is going to be border box. Okay, and that is all for zeroing out our margins and patterns and all that. Let me make this scroll behavior smooth. Okay, and this is going to help us scroll smoothly. So for instance, if I should go to my products section, or let's say my white user section, is smoothly going to take me there. Okay, so that is for the smooth scroll. That is for this code right here. Now let's move on to the body. The body, I'm going to give that a font family. Now for the font family, that's the type of font we want to use on this website. We are going to get that from Google Fonts. Okay, so let me get back here and then search for Google Fonts. We are going to get our fonts from Google Fonts. So the first one, notice we have two different fonts. Okay, we have this and then we have this as well. This is going to be Poppins, and then this is going to be Abaya Liba or something like that. I don't really know the pronunciation. So let's go to Google Fonts and then search the first one, which is going to be for our titles. This is going to be our fonts for the titles, and I'm going to grab this extra bold. Okay, I'm going to copy that, and then secondly, I'm going to go back to the Google Fonts page and then search for Poppins. Okay, we are going to use Poppins for paragraphs and all that. So let me see, I'm going to start from this regular. I'm going to grab the regular. That is the regular is the 400 font width. I'm going to grab the medium as well. Let me grab the semi bold, the bold. I'm going to grab, actually, you know what, let me just grab everything from the normal. Okay, so I'm just going to grab everything, and then I can copy this right here and paste it in the head of my project. Okay, in the head section of my HTML file. I can do that, or I can import it inside of my style sheet. Okay, so either way is going to work, but I prefer using the HTML route. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and then I'm going to paste it inside of my HTML head right here. So let me leave a comment and let's get back to the CSS, and we can use our font right here. All right, so here, let's see, our font family for the body is going to be the Poppins. So I'm going to copy that, and when I save, our fonts should change. Okay, so that is for our body fonts family. Now let's give everything, that's every text, a color, the variable color dark, and that is this color. Okay, color dark, we are using this color, so variable color dark. All right, now let's move on and then give our body a background of color white. Okay, color white, and we have that color here as well. This is color white. Okay, this is the hex code for color white right here. So for any element with a class of container, we are going to give it a width of the width variable that we set in the variables, in the root variables. Let me go back and then show you that. So we are going to use this width, that is 84% for every container element. Okay, every div or any element with a class of container, and then we are going to have the margin set to 0 auto. Okay, so we have some changes right here taking place because inside of the nav we have a div child. Okay, the direct child of the nav is a div with a class of container. That is why this container style is taking place. Now let's move on and then give every image a width of 100%. So every image is going to be 100% of its parent. Now let's move on every anchor tag is going to have a color of color black. And then we are going to have some hover effects. So I'm going to give that a transition. All 300 milliseconds is okay. And that is going to smoothen some transitions. Okay, something like hover effects and all that, color changes and all that. It is going to smoothen the effects of those changes. Now all the heading elements, okay, all the H1s, the H2s, the H3s, the H4s, and then the H5s are all going to have a color of color black as well. They are going to have a font family of they're going to have this font family. So I'm going to copy and then paste it right here. We don't have any heading elements, okay, that is why we are not seeing that change, but we are going to do soon, and then you see that effect. So we have our font family. Let's give it a font weight as well of 800. Now let's target each of the heading elements. Okay, so the H1 is going to have a font size of 6 rem, a letter spacing -0.4 rem, and a line height of 0.8. Let's move on to the H2s. They are going to have a font size of 3.2 rem and a letter spacing of -0.2 rem. Okay, that is going to be for our H2s. The H3s are going to have a font size of 2 rem, and that is all we need. The H4s are going to have, actually the H4s and then the H5s are going to have a different font family. So the font size, let me first change the font size to 1.4 rem, and then the font family is going to be Poppins sans serif. Let's give them a font weight of 500. So they are medium. Now let's move on to change the font size for the H5. Okay, let me change the font size for the H5 separately. So the font size for the H5 is going to be 0.9 rem. And for every paragraph, every p tag, we are going to have a line height of 1.6. And then for every button, okay, for every btn class, we are going to have a padding of 1 rem for the top and bottom, and then 2 rem for the left and right. Let's give it a border radius of 3 rem. Font weight is going to be 500. Background, let's give it a color black background, and then the color is going to be color white. Okay, the border is going to be 1 pixel solid transparent, and then the cursor is going to be pointer. So these are the styles for our buttons. Okay, now let me actually give it a transition of all 300 milliseconds is, because we are going to have some hover effects with our buttons. Okay, so we want that to be smooth. All right, now let's move on to the hover effect. Okay, so every class of btn is going to have a hover effect. Every button is going to have a hover effect, and let's give them a background of color white. The color, the text inside of it is going to be color black, and the border is going to be 1 pixel solid color black. Okay, that is for the btn class. Now for every button, now for some buttons, we are going to have a btn primary class as well. Let me show you that in a finished project. This button is going to have a btn and a btn primary class. Okay, now a button that is going to have only the btn class is going to be a button like this. Okay, so that is the difference. So for every btn primary, we are going to have the background to be color primary, and then the color is going to be color white. Okay, and that is all we need for our btn primary class. Now for every section, let's give it a max width of 100 viewport width, and then we are going to have some padding. So it's going to be 12 rem for the top, 0 for the left and right, and then 0 for the bottom as well. So every section is going to have these styles, and this is all for our general styles. Okay, this is all we need for our general styles. Now let's move on to our navbar. Let's move on to style our navbar. Okay, so let me leave a comment here. Now for the navbar, it is inside a tag of nav. It is inside a nav tag. So nav, let's give it a width of 100 viewport width, a height of 5 rem, and then I'm going to display grid. Okay, just because I want to place the direct child to the center, and that is the container inside of the nav item. I want to place that to the center. Is going to be vertically and horizontally aligned to the center. Okay, now I'm going to position this navbar fixed. I want it to be fixed on the web page no matter how far we scroll. And then the z index, okay, the z index is going to be 2. All right, I want it to sit on top of every element on the page. Now let's move on to the buttons. These buttons are only going to show on mobile. Okay, so let me remove them right now. So nav button, remember they are inside a tag of buttons or button. Okay, so this is the menu button, this is the close button. We are going to remove both of them, so display none. When we get to the mobile version or the tablet version, we are going to show them, or we are going to make them available. Now let's move to the container. So now container, I'm going to display flex. Okay, so that we have these elements side by side. I'm going to justify content to be space between, and then align items, that is vertical alignment, then horizontal alignment. Okay, so these are going to be space between, and then I'm going to center these center the elements vertically. Okay, all right, so that is for the container. Now let's move on to this section. Okay, that is, let's move on to the UL, and I'm going to display flex as well and give them a gap, okay, of 3 rem. And now we have our nav items. All right, let's move on to every link or every anchor tag inside of that. So let me actually make this smaller. So now container ULA. Okay, so every anchor tag is going to have a padding of 0.3 rem. So 0 for the top, 0 for the left and right, and then 0.3 rem for the bottom. Okay, that is the padding we are giving to every link here. And I'm going to have some hover effect. So transition or 300 milliseconds is, oh, actually, you know what, I think I gave the transition here already, so I'm just going to remove this. This not necessary. There's a transition on every link or every anchor tag already. Now let's give one of these items, just like we have here on the home page or on the home nav item. We are going to give a class to this home as well. So let's go to the HTML, and then I'm going to give this home a class of active. Okay, so this is going to be the active page by default, and we are going to style that. So let me copy this, paste, a border bottom actually of 6 pixels, solid, and we're going to use the color primary variants. Okay, and that is another CSS variable up top. All right, so that is for our active class. Now on hover, I just want to change the color to color primary variants. Okay, so on hover we are going to have the colors change to the primary variants color. Now let's move on to the icons, these icons, I'm just going to put some spaces between them. So nav icons, okay, remember they are inside the div with a class of icons. And here I'm going to display flex and then give them a gap of 2 rem, okay, and I'm going to increase the font size a little bit, so it's 1.2 rem. All right, and we have our icons. Okay, so this is all we need for our navbar. Okay, and this is all for our navbar. Let me go down. This is all for our navbar, and we are going to add more functionality to it, okay, when we get to the JavaScript part of this tutorial, so that when we scroll we are going to have that background. Okay, we are going to have that orange background. All right, so this is all for the nav section. Now let's get back to the HTML and then continue with our main section right here, our header section right here. So this is going to be the next section we are going to tackle. So let's get back to the HTML. Let me leave a comment here. Now the header section, or the main area, is going to be inside of a header tag. Now I'm going to wrap everything inside the div with a class of container here as well. And we are going to have 3 sections, okay, 3 main sections inside of this. Okay, so this is going to be one part, there's going to be another part, and then we are going to have another part. So basically we are going to have 3 direct children of the container. Now the first child is going to be the info, and that is going to be this left section right here. The second is going to be this image, and then we are going to have this card right here as well. Okay, so for the info section we are going to have our delivery thing right there. So div with a class of delivery, that is going to say free delivery worldwide. All right, and I'm going to have that track icon. Okay, I'm going to have this track icon. So let me go to Iconscout and search track. We're going to use CSS to change or rotate the icon, so let's just use that. All right, so that is for my delivery. I'm going to have my h1, that is my h1, and then I'm going to have my subtitle, okay, and that is going to be inside of a paragraph tag, and this is going to say and below that we are going to have our call to action buttons. Okay, so call to action, and then with a class of CTA, and our first button is going to go to our product section, and we are going to give it, let's give it a class of BTN and BTN primary, and it is going to say C products. That is all it is going to say. We are going to have a second button, and this is going to go to this is just going to play the video. Okay, so let me actually give this an ID of show commercial BTN, and this button content is going to be an image. So let's see, images, and then we are going to search for the play image. Let me show you that. Inside of images, let's see, actually it's going to say how it works as well. So aside the image, it is going to say this as well. All right, so that is for our call to action buttons. Now let's move on, and then outside of the info section we are going to have our main image, our main header image. So a div with a class of header image, and inside of it we are going to have our image, and that is going to be header.png, no alt, and lastly we are going to have that card. Okay, let me show you real quick. We are going to have this card. Okay, so this is the image we just grabbed. Now we are going to grab this card. Let me give that a class of details, and inside of it we are going to have the image. So images, details. Okay, details.png. So that is all for the header section or the main area. Now let's head back to the CSS and then give this some styling. Now let's give this a background. The background is actually going to be an image as well. This dotted or this dashed image, okay, in the background, that is going to be the image we're going to use. So it's going to be a URL, and then I'm going to select that image, and that is going to be the header vector image. Let's put this side by side so that you see everything. And this is not going to repeat, so I'm going to set it to no repeat, center, and then background size is going to be cover. Now the height is going to be 100 viewport height, and that means it's going to cover the entire screen. Okay, and then the width is going to be 100 viewport width as well. Okay, and that is for the header. All right, now let's move on and then give this a position of relative, and then from the top we are going to push it down 5 rem. So this is pushed down. Okay, so at first it was hidden under this navbar, that's without this top, as you can see, and now we are pushing it down. Okay, 5 rem, and 5 rem is the height of the navbar. Okay, so it is going to be exactly below the navbar. Now we are going to display grid, and then I'm going to place items to the center. Okay, so the direct child, that is the container, is going to be placed exactly in the middle. Now let's head to the header container. So we are going to display grid on that, and then the grid template columns is going to be 30 rem for the info section, auto for the header image, and then 17 rem for the details section. Okay, so this section is going to be 30 rem, this image is going to be auto, and then this section, that is the details section, is going to be 17 rem. All right, and this is CSS grid. Okay, this is a CSS module that makes aligning items on the page very easy. Now let's move on and align items to the center. Let's give the container a max height, a maximum height of 100%. Okay, and then I'm going to give it a margin top -3%. Let's see what we have. All right, so this is what we have. Now let's move on to this info section. Okay, and then style it. Let's style the info section. Now notice we have our button styled already. Okay, our button is styled, and that is because we already have our button classes styled. Okay, so these are the classes taking effect on this button right here. Now let's move on to the delivery. So header, container, the info section, and then the div with a class of delivery. We are going to give it a background of the color primary variance. Let me give it a width of the maximum content, so it's going to be exactly the width of the content inside of it, and then give it a padding 0.5 rem for the top and bottom, and then 2 rem for the left and right. Let's give it a border radius of 2 rem to round the edges, and then let's give it a color black, and then margin bottom of 1.5 rem. So that is for our delivery. Now let's move on to our icon. Okay, notice this icon is looking the wrong way. This track is looking the wrong way, so we are going to change the direction. We are going to rotate that. So let's see, let's first display this inline block, and then let's transform, rotate. We are going to rotate this 180 degrees. Let's rotate Y. Okay, let's rotate on the Y axis 180 degrees, and then we have our track looking the right way. Now I actually want to give a margin left of 1 rem, okay, to push it a little away from the text. All right, so now let's move on to the paragraph. Header, container, info, p. I'm going to change the font size to 1.3 rem. The font weight, I'm going to change that to 500 to make it a medium weight, and then margin, I'm going to give it a margin of 1 rem for the top, 0 for the left and right, and then 2 rem for the bottom. Now let's move on to our call to action buttons. There's also a call to action button as well. There's also a call to action button, so let's move on to that. And for our next project, we are going to use BEM, okay, for specificity. So we are going to use BEM so that we don't keep repeating our parent classes and all that. So let's move on to the call to action buttons. Now we are going to display flex. Remember we gave, and I'm going to align items to the center. I'm going to style this image right here. So the image is going to have a width 3.6 rem. I'm going to give it a transition of all 300 milliseconds is. Now let me select the anchor tag as the last child. I'm selecting this link. Remember, this is inside of a link, okay? This is inside of an anchor tag. Let me show you. Okay, this is what we are styling. This is what we are targeting. Okay, so for this, I'm going to actually display flex. I'm going to align items to the center. A gap of, let's do 1 rem, and a margin left of 1 rem as well. Let's see what we have. Okay, I'm going to change the color. That is the text color right here. I'm going to change that to color black, and then let me change the font weight as well. Actually, this color is not needed because every link already has that color black. And then I'm going to change the font weight to 500. Now we have our call to action buttons. Let's see, let me increase this to 1.4 rem. Okay, that is the margin left to push it a little away from this call to action button. Now I want to have some hover effects for this button. Okay, this call to action button right here. So I'm going to copy this, and then on hover I'm going to change the color to color dark. That is, this text color is going to be changed to color dark. So on hover you should see some slight change. All right, so we have that. Now I want to change this image as well. Okay, this is an image, that is why it is not changing with text, so I'll have to change that separately. I'm just going to gray that out. I'm going to change the saturation of that. So let's say on hover I want to change the image. Okay, so I'm just going to change the filter saturation. The saturate is going to be 0. Now when we hover we should have that effect. All right, so this is all for the main section. Okay, the main header section. Let's see, I think I may have made a mistake. I want to take care of this scroll bar. Let me make this a max width. Okay, all right, problem solved. Now when we click this call to action button, it should play the video. Okay, just like we have in the finished project, it should play the video, right? But we don't have it yet, and that is because we haven't created the modal for that video. So let's go back to our HTML, and we are going to create that video modal. Now for the video modal, it's going to be a section, and I'm going to give that an ID of commercial. We are going to have everything inside of a container, and then we are going to have our video. Now I'm going to get rid of this source. I want the controls. The controls is going to be the play button and all that. These are going to be the controls. Okay, this full screen icon and all that, they are going to be the controls, and I want them. So I'm going to add the control keyword, and I want the video to automatically play. Okay, so I'm going to add that autoplay. Now let's link the source of the video. The source is going to be inside the images folder, and then we are going to have our commercial video. Okay, and then the type is going to be video mp4. All right, and that is all for our video modal. Okay, so let me leave a comment here, and then let's get back to the CSS. and put this side by side so that you see what's happening inside of the browser. And we give that an ID of commercial. Let's give that a background. Okay, so that this is going to be the modal. So background is going to be color primary variant. The width is going to be 100 viewport width. Come on, width. And then the height is going to be 100 viewport height as well. Okay, I want it to cover the entire screen. So that is going to be the width and height of the modal. I'm going to position this fixed, and from the top is going to be 0, and from the left is going to be 0 as well. Okay, so we have our modal right here. Now I want this to sit on top of every element on the page. Okay, so the Z index, I'm just going to make it 10, and then I'm going to remove every padding. Okay, notice we have some padding here. That is because we gave every section a padding of 12, okay, on the top. So I'm going to zero out that padding, save, and then we have no padding right here. And now I'm going to display grid, okay, just because I want to place items to the center. Okay, the container is going to be placed in the center. Now section commercial container, let's start the container. Let's give the container a width of, let's see, I'm going to give it the mobile width. That is the width of the container. And I'm going to give it a box shadow. A box shadow 0 on the x-axis, 2 rem on the y-axis, 3 rem for the blur, and then the color is going to be an RGBA of 0.5 for the alpha. Alright, so let's see. Our video is too big. Okay, so let's resize our video. So I'm going to copy this, paste, and then the video tag, I'm just going to change the width to 100%. And now we have our modal. You know what? I'm going to resize the width of the container. I'm just going to make that 74%. Okay. All right. So we have this. You can view in full screen and all that. Now we are going to use JavaScript to show and hide this modal. Okay, this video. So for now, I'm just going to display it none, just so we can proceed with the rest of the sections that we have to cover. So when we get to the JavaScript, you are going to have the hiding and showing functionality, okay, using JavaScript. But now let's proceed to the products section. Okay, let's proceed to the products section of the website. There's going to be the products section. Let's proceed to that. Now our products section is going to be very simple. We are just going to have an H1 tag, a paragraph tag right here, and then we are going to have an article, okay, which is going to have the image and then the info or the details of the product. We are going to have the same here, okay, and this same thing is going to be here, and then we will go to our CSS and then change our styles or style this section. So let's get to our projects. Let's go to our HTML, and below this we are going to have our products section. Okay, so section, remember we have to give it an ID of products, okay, so that we can just click on this and then it will take us there. Okay, and then we are going to have a container inside of it, so everything is going to be wrapped inside of that container. And here we are going to have our H1, and that is going to say best cosmetics products, cosmetic products actually. All right, and we are going to have our paragraph. This is going to be inside of our paragraph. Let's save. All right, so that is our paragraph. Let's see. Now we are going to have an article. Okay, our product is going to be inside an article tag, and the first thing we are going to have is the product image. Let's select that. Inside of our images we are going to have our feature 1, that is our product, and then we are going to have the product details or the product info. So a div with a class of info. Inside of it, we are going to have an h2. And then we are going to have a paragraph tag as well. Let's see. Right, and the last thing we are going to have is a link, and this is actually not going to go anywhere. Let's say load or read more. Actually, let's say read more. So this is for one product. I'm going to duplicate this and change the contents for the other product as well. So this first product title is going to be, this second product title is going to be HD micro. Now let's head to the CSS and then style this products section. First of all, let's see what we have from the markup. So this is what we have from the products section markup. Let's see. I think this title should be an h2. Okay, it is too big. So I'm going to go back to the HTML and then change this to, let's see, this should be an h2. Okay. All right, save, come back to the CSS and then, okay, so that should be our title for the products section. All right, now let's style this. So I'm just going to select the container directly. So section products, I'm going to select the container and then give it a width of 56%. This should be section. All right, so that is the width of the container. Now let's move on. Let's see, I'm going to select the direct h2 and then the direct paragraph as well. That is this and then this. Okay, I'm going to select those. So the paragraph and then text align them to the center. Okay, so that is what we are doing there. And then I'm going to select the article. I'm going to display grid for each article. So each article has two direct children. Okay, the image and then the info section, the div with the class of info. So I'm going to display grid on the article, and then the grid template columns is going to be 1fr 1fr. Okay, so one fraction each. And then I'm going to align items to the center, and margin top is going to be 5 rem. Okay, so this first one is going to have a margin top of 5 rem that is going to push it from this. And then this second one is also going to be pushed from this first one. Now let's go to, you know what, I'm going to style the paragraph, okay, so that we have some spaces between these. So the paragraph inside of the article, I'm going to give that a margin of 1.5 rem for the top, and then 0 for the left and right, and 1 rem for the bottom. You know what, I don't like this transparent background. Okay, we're actually going to use JavaScript to have that orange when we scroll. Okay, but for now, let me go to the nav and then give this a white background and then some let's see, background white, and then I'm going to give it box shadow. Let me give it a box shadow, 0 on the x axis, 1 rem on the y axis, and then 1 rem for the blur. Let's see, RGBA, let me make this 0.2. okay, let me actually do 0.1. So let's proceed with the Let me actually change the grid template columns to 60% and then 40%. Okay, let me give this a margin right of -8 rem, and then let me give some hover effects to the links actually. So let me give some hover effect to the link, and then I'll go to the markup and actually change the position inside of the markup. Okay, I don't want to do that here. So text decoration for the links is going to be underlined. Okay, also on hover we are going to have the text decoration change to underline. So now let me get back to the markup and then change the position for the second product. So for the second product, the image is going to come after the details or the info section. Paste, and then that is all. So that is all for our product section. Let's see. Yeah, that's it. That's all. That's all for our products section. You can click this and it is going to take us to the product section. Okay, now let's move on to the why choose us section. Okay, let's move on to this section right here, and for that we are going to have a head. Okay, a div with a class of head, and that is going to have this left section and then the right section. Then we are going to have an article that contains this. Okay, just like we had in the product section. All right, so let's get to the markup and then do this. Remember to give it an ID of why choose us. Okay, so that we can just click. Let me show you real quick so that we can just click and it will take us to that section. Okay, so just like we have the product section, we should have this as well. All right, so this is going to have a container as well, and then as I said, we are going to have a div with a class of head, and inside the head we are going to have a left and then a right. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate and then change this to right. Now let's deal with the left section first. The left is just going to have an h4 and an h2. Okay, so the h4 is going to say why choose us, and then the h2 is going to say how to use. I don't know if this even makes sense, but you know, just took everything from, not everything, but you know, the text, almost all the text is from the design. Okay, so this, I want this to be on another line. Okay, that is why I have this break tag here. All right, so that is for the left. Now let's move on to the right section of the head. The right section is going to have two direct divs. The first one is going to be an image. So it's going to be inside of the images, and then let's search load png, and that is going to be this image right here. Okay, let's see, that's going to be this image. Okay, so we already have it. Another div, we have a paragraph, does not contain alcohol, it says. Then we are going to have an h4 pH 3.5. That is for the head section. Now we are going to have our article. So we have our article tag, and then obviously we are going to have the image of the product or of the article, and that is going to be inside of images, and this is going to be the why choose as image. Okay, and the info is going to have an h4. This is going to say apply and ingredients. Not to be disrespectful, but I don't really know what this content means, but you know, you would be having your own content for this project. Okay, your clients would be giving you his or her contents for the project. All right, so this is just some dummy text we are going to use here. Just going to duplicate. Let me actually copy this and then paste it. And this is going nowhere, but this is going to be an image as well. Learn more. Okay. All right, so this is all for the why choose as section. I'm just going to copy this comment, paste it here, and then change this to end of why choose as. Now let's head to the CSS. Let's first see what we have from the markup. All right, so this is what we got. Now let's head to the CSS and give this some styling. Let me put this side by side. Now I'm straightforward going to grab the head, okay, the div with the class of head, and then display flex. Okay, I'm going to justify content to be spaced between. All right, so we have this. All right, now let's move on to, let's see, let me just copy, paste, and then let's move on to the left. Okay, inside of the head, remember we have that left section. Let's target the H4. Let's change the font style. Okay, the font style, I'm going to change the font style to italic. Okay, so our font style is changed. And let's see, actually, you know what, I'm going to change the color as well. Color should be I think I made a mistake at the top here. The H4 should have a dark color. Okay, it shouldn't be black. So let's see, let me change this to color dark. Okay, so that by default I'll have that. All right, now let's proceed. So let me actually remove this color. Let's go to the right section, display flex, give it a gap of 2 rem and a width of 16 rem. Okay, this is going to be the right section. Save, and we have this. Now even I think down the right section image, okay, is going to have a width of 8 rem. This is the image, and now I'm going to target the H4 inside of the right. Okay, so the H4 here, I'm going to give that a margin top of 1 rem. Change the color to color black. That is the very dark color, almost black color. Then the font weight, I'm going to make that 700. Make it bold. Make this color black. Okay. All right, so we have that. Now let's move on to the article. Okay, so let me copy from the container down, and then the article, let me display grid on the article. Okay, the article section is going to be this image, and then the info, going to display grid. Nothing happens because we have to set the grid template columns, and this is going to be one fraction. Okay, so the image is going to be one fraction and the info is going to be one fraction as well. Now I'm going to align items to the center, give a gap between them, and then margin top. Okay, let me push it down 5, or let me make it 6 rem. Okay, so we have some space, some decent space. Right now I want to style this. Okay, I want to style this H4, so I'm going to copy this, paste, and then target the H4. I'm going to set the margin bottom to 1.4 rem to give some gap between the H4 and then the paragraph. The color is going to be color black, and then the font weight is going to be 700 as well, just like this. All right, Now I think I have to give some space between the paragraphs as well. So let me just copy this, paste, and then target the paragraph. I'm going to set the margin bottom to 1 rem, and we have some space or some margin between the paragraphs, right? Now I'm going to target this link which has the image inside of it. That is the anchor tag. So I'm going to display inline block, and then the margin top is going to be 1 rem. Okay, I'm going to push it down a little bit. Now I want to have some hover effect with this. So let's see. Let me first target the image. That's on hover. I want to target the image, filter, saturate. This is too sharp. Okay, this is too sharp. So let me add a transition here. Okay, so let's see. So we have a smooth transition now. Now the image itself, I want the image itself to have a fixed width of 8 rem. So I'm going to remove this hover from here and then give it a width of 8 rem. Okay, and this transition should actually come here. Okay, so that we have that effect, that smooth hover effect. All right, so this is all for the why choose as section. Okay, so let's go to the home page. You can come down to the product section and then come way down to the why choose as section. All right, so now let's move on to the trusted clients section. Okay, the trusted clients section, let's move on to that. Section with an ID of trusted clients. Okay, let's have a container as well, just so we can wrap everything inside of it. We're going to have an h4. Okay, and that is going to be, and then we are going to have the logos, okay, of the different companies. We are going to put them inside of a div. Okay, so that is the first one, and I'm just going to duplicate this a few times. We have 2. So that's all for the trusted client section. Okay, that's all for the trusted client markup. Let's first see what we have so far. Okay, so these are the logos of the trusted clients, and we are going to give some style to that. So all right, so section trusted clients. I'm first going to target this h4. Okay, so the h4, let me text align that to the center. I'm going to change the font size to 1 rem. Let me actually change transform. Okay, so text transform to uppercase, make everything uppercase right there, and then I'm going to change the font weight as well to 700, just so it's bolder. And now let's move on to the content, I think, or clients actually, or the div with a class of clients, and that has the images. Okay, the various images. So here I'm just going to display flex, align items to the center, justify content to be spaced between. Then I'm going to give them a margin, give it a margin top of 4 rem. Okay, and we have it. That is all for this section, okay, our trusted client section. All right, now let's move on to our testimonial section. Okay, so we are going to create our testimonial markup, and then we are going to have this slide or swipe effect as well. So let's head to our markup and then continue to our testimonial section. Now for the testimonial section, we are going to use SwiperJS. Okay, so let me show you. So let's go to swiperjs.com and then let's click on get started. Okay, and then I'm going to click on the API as well. I'm going to show you something in the API. So to get started, we are going to use the CDN. Okay, so use swiper from CDN, and right here we are going to copy this link and then paste it inside of our markup. Okay, so let's go to the head and then we can paste it anywhere. Okay, so let me actually format this. All right, so this is going to be SwiperJS CDN, and I'm going to paste this. Okay, that is the link. Let me format this. Now what we have to do, let's go back to the API and then I'm going to show you something. Now what we have to do is, let me actually go back and then show you some demos. Okay, so they have some demos here. They have different slide or swipes that you can use. They have different sliders or whatever they are called. So this is the first one. They have the ones with the clickable arrows, and then they have these types as well. Okay, so this is what we are going to use. Okay, we are going to use this. Okay, so to do that, let's go to the API. To do that, the main section, okay, our main section is going to have a class of swipe. Okay, and the direct child, which in our case would be the container class, is now going to have a class of swiper wrapper. Okay, so we can have the container class and then have this class as well, but we are going to, in our case, we are going to omit the container class and then use this swiper wrapper instead. And the individual slice, okay, so our individual testimonials are going to have this swiper slide class as well. Okay, so that is what we are going to do in our HTML. So let's get back down to our testimonial section, and as I said, our section is going to have a class of swiper. Okay, that is the class we have to give our section, and inside it we are going to have a direct div with a class of swiper wrapper that is going to wrap all the slides, and for each testimonial is going to be inside of an article. So each article or each testimonial is going to have a class of swiper slide. Okay, we are going to have the image section, so we're there with the class of image, and this first image is going to be testimonial 1. Okay, and then we are going to have the details. Okay, so a sibling of the image is going to be, so details, and the details is going to have an h4. All right, and now we are going to have our paragraph. Okay, let me just paste in this. Okay, so we have 2 paragraphs, one here, and then we have this as well. Okay, we're going to have an h5, that is going to be the name of the client, and then a small tag, the position of the client. Okay, the work the client does. Now this is all for a testimonial. Okay, so we are going to have duplicates of this, so I'm just going to copy this and duplicate it twice, and I'm going to change the content real quick. Okay, all right, so now we have some testimonials. Okay, so this is the first one, we have the second one, this is the second testimonial, and we have the third testimonial. Okay, So that is all for our markup. Now let's get to the CSS. Let's go to the CSS and style this. Let's quickly style the testimonial and then give it that slide effect. Right, so the main section, that is the swiper, we are going to give it a width of the variable width. Let's give it a height of 100%, and then let's see 100%, and then let's push it down. Margin top is going to be 12 rem. Now the swiper wrapper, okay, that is the direct child of the swiper, is going to have a width of the variable width as well, and then a margin bottom of 3 rem. Now the swiper slide, okay, the swiper slide, that is each testimonial or the articles are going to be displayed flex, and then we are going to align items to the center and give them a gap between the images and then the details or the info. We are going to give them a gap of 5 rem. All right, so we have that. Now let's target the h4 inside of the details. So the h4 inside the details, we are going to change the color to color primary, and then the font size, we are going to reduce it to 1 rem. So we have that. Now let's target the h2. Okay, so for every h2, let me give it a margin of 1 rem for the top and bottom, and 0 for the left and right. That is for the h2 right there. And then let's target the paragraphs, the P's. Okay, so the P's are going to have margin bottom of 1 rem. And now let me target the h5. Okay, this is an h5. Let me target that h5. I'm going to change the color to color black. Font size, I'm going to change that to 1.3 rem. And then the font family, I'm actually going to use that is a serif font. Font weight, I'm going to make that 800, and then give it a margin of 1.6 rem for the top, 0 for the left and right, and then 0.4 for the bottom. Okay, so that is for, oh, actually, you know what, let's get back to our markup. We are going to have this pagination. Okay, we are going to have this bullets. So let's go back to our markup. Let's go down, and we are going to have a div with a class of swiper pagination right here. Okay, we are going to have that, and that is all we have to do. Let's get back to the CSS and start that swiper pagination real quick before we have that swipe effect. So let's see. So I want to style the bullets. I'm just going to give them a background color of color primary. Okay, all right, so now let's go back to our SwiperJS and see what we can do. Okay, so after having our markup, all we have to do is to, let's see, where is our API, is to choose what kind of pagination or what kind of swipe we need. Okay, we are using the pagination, so let's click on the pagination, and then we are going to copy this code and paste it inside of our JavaScript. Okay, our JavaScript file. So our JavaScript file is the main.js. We are going to paste this in. Let me leave a comment here. SwiperJS testimonial section. All right. Now it is not going to work because we have not linked our JavaScript file to our HTML. So let's link that real quick. Main.js, and above this we have to link our SwiperJS CDN as well. Okay, so the JavaScript CDN for SwiperJS, let's link that as well. So let's see, getting started. the CDN route, and we are going to link this as well. Okay, make sure you link both the CSS and then the JavaScript. Okay, make sure you link both. So right here, I'm just going to paste that on top of the custom JavaScript file, save, and now we should have our swipes. Okay, we should have our slide for our testimonial section. All right, you can have as many testimonials as you want. So let me show you real quick. Let me just copy this and duplicate it a few times, 3 times. So now we should have 6 testimonials. Okay, so 1 2 3 4 5 6. All right, but I just need 3. Okay, so yep, let me save, and now we have 3 testimonials. All right, so now we are done with our testimonials section. So let's see what we have to do next. So let's move on to our frequently asked questions section. Okay, let's move on to that real quick. Now for our frequently asked questions section, we are going to have a section, obviously, and then inside of it we are going to have a container to wrap around all of these, and then we are going to have our h2. Okay, and we are going to have a content, a div with a class of content, which is going to have these various sections. Okay, so for each of these we are going to put them inside an article tag, and for each article tag we are going to have 2 direct children. That is going to be the icon and then the details. Okay, so we are going to have the icon and then the details right here as well. Now for each details we are going to have an h4 and then a paragraph. The paragraph is going to be the answer, and then the h4 is going to be the question, as you can see here as well. Now this is an open question. Okay, this is an open article tag. Okay, and that means we are going to have a class on this that is going to make it different from the others. So when we click this, it is going to open to show the answer to that question, and then the icon here is going to change as well. Okay, so we are going to have that toggle, and we are actually going to use JavaScript to have this toggle effect, but the styling is going to be done with CSS. Okay, we are done with Poppins as well, or the Google fonts. So let me close that, and now let's get back to the markup. Okay, let me make this wide enough for us to see everything that goes on. I'm going to leave a comment here as well. So section with the ID of frequently asked questions. Now inside of it we are going to have a div with a class of container, and we are going to have the h2, and we are going to have the content. Okay, each of the cars that we saw is going to be inside of an article tag, and inside of that article tag we are going to have the icon, so a div with a class of icon, and I'm going to grab that plus icon from Iconscout. Okay, so let's search plus, let's use this right here and then paste it in, and a sibling of the icon is going to be the details. Okay, and the details is going to have the question, which is going to be inside of an h4, and this is the first question. Okay, that is the first question, and the answer is going to be inside of a paragraph. Okay, so let's see, for this one let me just do lorem 30. Okay, so this is one. I'm going to duplicate it a few times, and then I think that's enough for now. Okay, let me duplicate it a couple more times. Okay, and that is enough. We are going to have a button at the bottom here, and that is going to go to the frequently asked questions page itself. Remember, we are going to have a separate page for frequently asked questions, So this button will be going to that page, and we are going to give it a btn class. All right, and that is all for this frequently asked questions section. All right, so let's head to the CSS and give this some styling. Now this is the results from the markup. Okay, this is the results from the HTML. Now let's get to the CSS and then give this some styling. Let me first target the H2. Okay, let me target this H2. I'm going to text align that to the center, and then margin bottom is going to be 5 rem. Okay, all right, now I'm going to target the content. I'm going to target the content directly and then display grid on that. Okay, grid template columns obviously is going to be 1FR on 1FR. Beautiful. Now I'm going to give some gap between them, which is going to be 1 rem. Now let's move on to each article. Okay, so let me just copy this, paste it, and then target each article. For each article, we are going to have a padding. Okay, let's give them a padding of 2 rem, a border radius of 0.5 rem. Let's display them flex. Okay, so the icon and then this detail section is going to be displayed flex. They are going to be side by side, and then let's give them a gap. Okay, let's have some gap between them, so a gap of 1.4 rem, and then a height of fit content. Okay, now I'm going to have a background of color primary. We are going to have that orange color. All right, now for the cursor, I want it to be pointer. Okay, I want it to look clickable, so we are going to change the cursor to pointer right here. Let's see, let's style the h4 inside of the details. So the h4, let's change the color to white. Okay, so the h4s have the color white, and then the paragraphs. Okay, let me actually change the style. Let me style the icons first. The icons are going to have a color white as well, and then I'm going to increase the font size to 1.2 rem. Okay, so we have the icons. This should be I. Okay, so the icons have that color. Now I'm going to target the paragraphs. Okay, so the answers inside of the details section, let me actually push it from the top 1 rem. Let me give them a color of color light. Okay, so we have that, but for now I don't want these to show. Okay, I want only the questions to be showing. So let me display none on the answers, which are the paragraphs, and I have to resize my h4. Let me resize that. So font size, let me make that 1 rem. Okay, so now they look pretty good, but I want one of these to be open by default. Okay, I want one of these to be open by default. So let me go back to the markup, and I'm going to give a class to the first one. Okay, so this first one is going to have a class of open, and I'm going to change the icon. Okay, since it's open, notice in the finished project when we open it, this icon changes to the minus. Okay, that means it's open. So I'm going to search the minus and then copy that, go back to the markup, and then replace that with the plus. Okay, so the first one should have that open effect. So let's start that open class, head back to the CSS, So section, let me target the content, and then let me target the paragraph. Okay, so the P is going to be displayed block. Okay, so this has the open class. Now let's move on to the link down below, this button right here, or you can use the BTN. Okay, you can add the BTN class as well. It's the same thing. Let's see what we can do here. Let's display its block. Okay, the margin is going to be 0 auto. Let's give it a fixed width of 12 rem, and then text align to center, and I'm going to push it down, so margin top 1.6 rem. All right, so we have that, and that is all for our frequently asked question section of the home page. Okay, we are going to have a separate frequently asked questions which are going to hold more questions. Okay, so we click this. Actually, let's do that. When we click this button, it should take us to the frequently asked questions page, just like we have here. Okay, it should take us to the page, the frequently asked questions page. So let's go to the markup. I don't think we did that. Let's see. Okay, so it should take us to the frequently asked questions page. Perfect. All right, so that is all for the frequently asked questions. Okay, now the next section is going to be this call to action section. Okay, and after that we are going to have our last section of the home page, which is going to be the footer section. So let's continue with the call to action section, with this section right here. All right, so let's give this an idea of CTA, call to action, and then we are going to have everything inside the container. Inside the container, we're going to have 3 direct children. Okay, 3 items. So the first one is going to be a div with a class of info. The next is going to be a div with a class of image. Let me actually get that image right now. All right, so that is the image, and then the last item is going to be a button. Okay, so a link, and that is going to go to the contact.html page. Let's give this button a class of btn, and it is going to say let's talk. All right, so in the info section we are going to have an h3, and then a paragraph. Okay, a paragraph, lorem 15, or let's say lorem 13. Okay, that should be enough. That should be enough for this. Okay, so that is all for the CTA section. Let me leave a comment, and then let's get back to the CSS and style this. Okay, let's see what we have from the markup. All right, so this is all we have. We have our button, which is already styled from the previous classes, and then we have our info section right here and our image as well. So let's give this some styling. So I'm going to grab the container directly, CTA container. Let me give that a background of the color primary. I'm going to display flex, and then justify content to be space between. Okay, I'm going to align items to be center. So we have this, and then let me give it some padding. So a padding, let's do 2 rem for the top and bottom, and then 5 rem for the left and right. Let's give it a border radius of 2 rem so that we have some round edges relative. Okay, and I'm giving it a relative position because I'm going to have this image positioned absolute. Okay, and you know what, I'm going to give this a height of 20 rem. Okay, So that is a fixed height of 20 rem. Now let's move on to the info section. Let me just copy this. And so div with a class of info. Let me just give it a fixed width as well of 26 rem. And I'm going to style the h3 inside of that. Okay, so the info h3, I'm going to give it a margin bottom of 1 rem, and then change the color to color white. So this is what we have. I'm going to style the h3 as well, sorry, the paragraph. So the color for the paragraph is going to be color light, and we have that. Now let's style the image. Okay, the div with a class of image, and that is a direct child of the container. So image, we're going to position that absolute. Let's give it, it's going to be -4 rem from the top, and for the from the right 35%. Okay, now we are going to use media queries to make this look different on smaller devices, on tablets and mobiles. But for now, let's just style this as it should look on desktop. All right, so let me target the button. Okay, the button, the btn. I'm going to align self to flex end, and I think this should be enough. Okay, this is enough. This actually looks good. Okay, so that is all for CTA section of the page. All right, so now let's move on to the footer section. Okay, let's move on to this footer section of the page. Now let me show you something real quick from the finished project. Now we are going to have this footer section inside a footer tag. Okay, and then inside of it we are going to have the container to wrap around everything, and we are going to have 4 direct children inside of the container. Okay, so they are going to have classes f1, f2, f3, and then f4. All right, and f1 is going to have this contents, f2 is going to have these contents, and then just like that. Okay, so let's get back to the markup. All right, so we are going to have everything inside a footer tag, and we are going to have that container class, and we are going to have that. So we are going to have f1 to f4. Okay, so let me do tab, and then we have it. All right, so inside of the f1, let me actually give some gap between these. Inside of the f1, we are going to have the logo. Okay, so let me give this a class of logo, and then I'm going to select images and then logo. Okay, so I have my logo. I'm going to have a paragraph as well, so this is going to be lorem, let's say 20. Okay, so lorem 20, that's too much. Let's do lorem 14, and then I have my subscribe input. Okay, so this should actually be inside a form if you are trying to actually make people subscribe, but here it is just going to be a design. Okay, so inside a div with a class of subscribe, you are going to have input of email. The type is going to be email. We are going to have a placeholder. All right, and then we are going to have a button, and that is going to have that arrow, icon. So let me see. Yep, this is the icon we are going to use, and that is all for the f1 section. Now let's head to the f2 section. This f2 section is going to hold the permalinks. Okay, so inside of it, let me have an h4, and the permalinks is going to be the links on the web page. Okay, so let me go to the nav section, copy, come down, and then paste it in. Okay, but this is not going to have the active class, so let me just remove that. And just like this, we are going to have an added list as well. So our privacy policy, this would go to our privacy policy page. Let me duplicate this twice. The second one is going to be terms and conditions, and then the last one is going to be refund policy. Okay, now the last one, which is the F4, the F4 is going to have some socials and all that. So let's have an H4 here. Say contact us. We're going to have a paragraph. All right, so that is my contact. We're actually going to have a contact page, okay, and your visitors can actually contact you through that, okay. But there's a cool option to have an added list of our social media links. So this is going to go to our Instagram, and let's do target blank, okay, so that this link would open in a new tab, okay. So let me grab the Instagram icon. I'm going to use this. I'm going to paste that in here, and that is going to be my Instagram. Duplicate it twice. The next one is going to be Facebook. Now outside of the container, we are going to have this copyright text, okay. So let me actually just copy this, and we are going to have a div with a class of copyright, okay. So this is going to be our copyright text. If you don't get this symbol, you can just do this, okay, copy, and you should have that. All right, so that is all for our footer markup. Now let's head to our CSS and give this some styling. Okay, first let's see what we have from the markup. All right, so this is all we have from the footer markup. Now let's style this. Let's give the footer a background of color primary. Let's push it down, so margin top, let's do 8 rem, and then let's give it some padding too. So padding top, let's do 5 rem. Now the font size inside of this, I'm going to make it 0.9 rem, and then the color, I'm going to make that let's move on to the container. So footer container, I'm going to display grid, and grid template columns is going to be repeat 4 times 1 fr, and obviously I have to have some gap, okay. So gap, I'm going to do 5 rem, and then I'm going to justify content to be space between. All right, so this is what we have. Perfect. Right, now let's move on to the h4s, okay, or the h4s. So let me just copy this, paste h4 color. I'm going to make that color white. All the h4s has that color white, and actually I'm going to give it some margin bottom of 1 rem. Let me make that 1.6 rem instead. The logo here, I'm going to give it a fixed width of 6 rem. It should be smaller now. All right, so we have it. The paragraph inside of the F1, let's give it a margin 1 rem for the top, 0 for the left and right, and then 2 rem for the bottom. Let me actually give it a fixed width. Let me see. Nah, this is too much. Let me go back to the markup and change the contents for this. Let's see. This is still too much. Okay. All right. So that's enough. That's enough. And I think this gap is being weird. So I'm going to change the gap to 2 rem. And that is too low, so I'm going to make that 3 rem. Okay, that's good. Perfect. Now let's move on to our subscribe. Okay, so our subscribe div has this input and then the button right here. So let me copy this and then paste. Let me give it a border 1 pixel solid. Let me display flex, align items to the center, justify content to be spaced between. Actually, this background transparent is not needed. Let me just remove it. I'm going to give this a fixed height of 3 rem. Okay, that should be good. Now let's move on to the inputs. The input inside of the subscribe. So input, let me give that a background of transparent. I'm going to make the color white, and then the margin left, I'm going to give it let's see, let me give some styling to, let me change the color of the placeholder. Okay, I'm going to make that color light. All right, so that looks good. Now let's target the button. Okay, the button inside of the subscribe, I'm going to give that a background of color white. Let me change the color to color black. 300 milliseconds is because we are going to have some hover effect. Let me give it a width. Okay, let me give it a width of 3 rem, and then the height is going to be 3 rem as well. Okay, which is 100% of its parent. Notice the subscribe button has a height of 3 rem. Okay, so we are giving it 100%, making it a square since the width also is 3 rem. Now the font size here is going to be 1.2 rem. Okay, let me increase that a little bit. All right, so that is visible. That's good. Let me make it 1.3 rem. Let's see, on hover, when we hover over this button, I want the background to be color light, and then the color to be color primary. Let's see, the cursor is going to be pointer. All right, so we have that. So any unadded list inside of the container, actually let me just target the list items straight because the unadded list looks look good already. Every list item is going to have a margin bottom of 1 rem. Every link is going to have a color of color light, and on hover they are going to change color. Okay, so the color is going to be color white, and then we are going to set the text decoration to be underlined. Okay, we want to have underlines on hover. All right, so now we have this. Now let's proceed and then style this section, that is the P4. So let's see, let me just paste this. Sorry, F4, sorry, F4, not P4. For the F4, I'm going to style the P. Okay, the paragraph, I'm going to give that a margin bottom of 1.6 rem, and then the social media buttons. Okay, let me style that container socials. Let me get that directly from here. So I'm going to display flex. I'm going to give some gap between them, a gap of 1 rem, and then the font size is going to be 1.4 rem. Okay, let's see, footer socials. Did I give it a class of socials? I did not. So let me see, I'm going to give this a class of socials. Okay, now we have that style. All right, now the last part of this desktop version is the copyright section, right? but actually this footer section looks pretty weird, so I'm going to change the gap for the container. I'm going to make that 5. Okay, I think 5 looks pretty good. Yeah, this looks better. Now let's style the copyright section of the footer. So footer and then the copy right. Okay, I'm going to text align to the center. Margin top is going to be 4 rem. Give it some padding of 1.2 rem 0, and then color, give it a color of white. Let me give it a border top of 1 pixel solid, color light. Okay, and we have a copyright section right here. All right, so that is all for the desktop version of this website. Now remaining the functionalities that we have to add, and then the responsiveness. Okay, so we are going to end this video here, and then in the next video, that is part 2, we are going to finish everything up. We are going to get done with the media queries, that is the tablet version of the website, and then the mobile version of the website, and then we are going to add all the functionalities like playing the video and all that. All right, so see you in the next video.